G'day and welcome back to the channel. So in my video today I'd like to cover this little steam engine, and I'll be doing an unboxing video, completing the assembly and doing the test run here on my channel. Now this was kindly sent to me by Roberta from Stirling Engine Kits. It comes all machined. All you have to do is follow an instruction guide to assemble it, and it's rather detailed and it's quite easy to follow, and I will show you the build as I progress throughout the video. Now I won't actually show you the assembling. What I'll do, I'll explain what I'm doing and then I'll chop back and show you once that's done and some of the troubles that I encountered along the way. Now a lot of the troubles I encountered along the way was my own fault for not following the instructions to the T, and having some dramas with big sausage fingers trying to hold tiny little screws to do the assembly. Overall, how would I rate the kit? To be brutally honest with you, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's very, very well built. All the components are provided. The only thing you don't get is, the alcohol for the burner, the water, some Loctite and some oil, some good quality sewing machine oil or something like that. But everything else is supplied. I have run it and test run it, and you would have seen that at the start of the video. So what I'll do now, if you like, I'll take you through the assembly process and how I went about it. And I'll also explain the mistakes that I had along the way. Got a little surprise for you today. I've got this little model steam engine kit to unbox, and this was sent to me by a company, and I'll put their details in the description so you can grab yourself one as well. Now, taking a look at it, it's fairly decent sized packaging here. I love the little stuff on the side here: authentic kit, see it work, STEM education, perfect gift, and that it will make indeed. Those that wonder what STEM is an acronym meaning science, technology, engineering and math. Came out of the NASA days, back in the day when they were trying to recruit enough engineers to send man to the moon. Right, let's open up this box here. Right, what do we got here? We got after sale service reminder card, so they're just saying you to sign for the package and check, make sure there's no damage, etc. Let's take a look at the instruction manual here. It looks like a bit of a build. I don't think it's going to be a 5-minute build, so we'll flick through some of these pages and take a look. So this obviously must be the base plate, and looks like anodized aluminium. It's sort of reminiscent of the old Meccano days, I think, a little bit. Right, let's take the top off this here. Alright, so what have we got here? There's a shitload of parts. This is definitely going to take a little bit of time to assemble, but that's okay, the time we have. So let's get all these parts out here. Nice little flywheel. Very cute little flywheel. I'd say it looks die cast. Heaps of bag of bits, a little tool kit down in here. Alright, very nice. What have we got in here? So this is the boiler. So it looks like the boiler is assembled, but let's take a good look at it. So there's the burner tank. I might just put some of these parts off to the side, hopefully they're still in the shop. Oh, that's the boiler cover there, that's the cover that goes over it. This looks like the boiler, the pressure vessel. Oh, there we go. Looks like it's been drawn into an extrusion, you can see here. That would have been a good tool back in the day to make that, to draw that copper all the way down. Looks like it's been silver soldered, and oh, quite impressed. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start assembling. I won't record the whole assembly. I'll come back periodically and show you what I've gotten up to, okay? So let's start. So I've started assembly and I'm currently on page 9, and page 9 is where you assemble the crankshaft base and assemble the piston. Now when you're assembling the crankshaft, you've got to ensure that you put there's 2 small spaces here. Now I assume there was 3 in the bag. There was 2 gold ones or goldish colour ones and a silver one. So I've left the silver one back in the bag 1 with a little name plate here. Now in the instructions they actually tell you to, once you assemble it, you've got to ensure that the connecting rod is running between these 2 parts here, because this is obviously where the cylinder is going to bolt down onto. Okay, and there's your valve arms, I think they're called. I can't remember the proper name of them in the steam world. I'm not a steam engine person, but no doubt my viewers will correct me in the comments. Now it says here that ensure that you turn the crankshaft by hand before tightening the screws to make sure the crankshaft rotates freely, which I did. And I've made sure that it's got very little end float there, and I mean very, very little. It's free. I'm quite impressed by the build, to be honest with you, with the quality of the build. You can actually see that it's a 2-piece crank, and there's the little grub screws that lock that shaft down. Alright, the next thing that I put together was the piston assembly, and once again they don't really tell you what 2 screws to use, but that sort of showed me that it was a Phillips head, so I found 2 in the bag that fitted that thread. Now what you will have to do, that shaft here is actually quite a nice fit into this piston and into this end here, and I had to use my pliers or my multi-grips, just like a vice, and just gently squeeze to push those onto the shaft. So they actually state here that piston, the crosshead and the piston rod must be fully seated during installation. The distance between the upper surface of the piston and lower surface of the crosshead is 40.5, and they've given you a sectional view here to show you that when you measure this, so the bottom of the crosshead and the top of the piston should be 40.5. So here's my very old Mitutoyo calipers, and if I just turn that sideways like they're showing you, I've literally got 40.5 on the bloody money. You know, it's give or take, 50 micron or something like that. It's stuff all right, so I'm happy with that. I've just completed the assembly processes on page 10 and 11. Now over here, what they had you doing is assembling the cylinder and bracket, and it's important to note that the exhaust port is on the right hand side of the cylinder. So over here, like so, and we had to assemble the gasket over here, put the gasket on. There is a cutaway notch which matches up with the notch in the cylinder. I did put some oil on the shaft and on the O-ring there to lubricate it. You can see here that it is moving very, very freely. I have to say I'm very impressed with the quality of this kit, to be honest with you. Now, I can understand there are some spelling mistakes, but let's not dwell on that. That's the school teacher coming out of me. But anyway, you can see here the exhaust port is on the right hand side of the cylinder. They tell you to line up the gasket with the notch, so that notch there. To slide it in, this slotted end here has to go all the way down, and 4 little screws, or little cap head screws, go into here. Alright. What I did then, I jumped the gun a little bit. I actually put the gudgeon pin in, and with the circlip. I will lubricate that later with a little bit of sewing machine oil down in here. Then we had to put on the reversing levers. So we had to actually build these and put these together. And important to note, they recommend you put some thread locker on it, so I'm just using some Loctite 243. And that was the same if I go back. I forgot to mention that on the previous page where they're telling you to put thread locker on both of those ends, the piston end and the crosshead end. We then slide the entire cylinder down onto the base and connect it, and of course attach that gudgeon pin. So I'm currently all the way up to page 12 to done. So the next part will be assembly of the main body and valve assembly, alright? So I'll bring you back. Now I've just finished off page 13. I don't keep the camera rolling while I'm assembling because it's you're just going to watch a heap of fast forward footage. It's just not worth it. The video would be 2 hours long. So I've done that. I've assembled the main body, the valve assembly, and I've put the cylinder head on. Now I made a mistake. The cap head screws here, or cap head bolts I should say, that I put in, I had the wrong ones in underneath here. I used the little silver zinc anneal or something like that, zinc screws, and it was too short a thread. In another bag there was some longer, now they look like high tensile cap head bolts, so I swapped them out and put them in here. So you'll see that it has 4 cap heads here, 4 cap heads on the bottom and 4 cap heads on top. These are the real long ones, so that's why I went back, seeing there was no other long ones there, and these were the black, the high tensile ones, so I assumed all the others should be the same. And of course that looks good, that contrasts the colour black on that brass colour, goldish colour. Now when you put the valve assembly on, you'll notice that I've got the exhaust port to the right hand side of the engine like it shows you here, and the company logo is put on this way here and down that little arrow down to the bottom left hand side, and that is consistent, you'll find, with the actual box itself. If I bring the box over here, rocking whale, and you can see that like a little triangle to the bottom left corner, so that's why I did the same thing here. Alright, so let's move on to the next page. I've also applied some oil, and as I told you before, you would be best to use some high quality sewing machine oil, but look, I had some transmission fluid, as I said earlier, and that's working well. So you have to lubricate in here, of course, the connecting rod mechanism, the big end bearing, and where else did I lubricate? Oh yes, down in here where this slides in and out, and just a little drop of oil in there for the reversing arm, you can see here, alright, to reverse the engine. Okay, let's turn the page, and I believe what I need to do here is to fit the assembly of the exhaust system. Alright, now this doesn't look that complex. It involves a pipe, some sort of manifold attachment, or flange attachment. Looks like an O-ring's got to be assembled, and that bolts on the side of the engine here, on this side here. So when you're looking at the engine front on, the exhaust port is on the left hand side. And assemble the flywheel, and I think once I get that done, then I can move on to putting the cover on the bottom of the crank. Yeah, and then start assembling boiler. So we're getting there, we're nearly there, alright? Let's keep going. So great news, I've got all that together. I've got the exhaust and the intake and the exhaust manifolds on. I've got the flywheel on. Now, unfortunately, with sausage fingers like these, I accidentally dropped the grub screw. Now it's a 3mm grub screw, and I don't have any. I've got 4mm, 5mm, 6mm. So I've lost it. It's hit the floor, the concrete floor. It's bounced somewhere, probably under one of my CNC machines. So I'll go to my nut and bolt shop and buy another grub screw for that later. Now when you're fitting the flywheel, you will notice that the concave section has to be facing outward, and they mention that here. Okay, and don't forget to put a little spacer on here. Now unfortunately the notch in the crankshaft doesn't line up, and that looks consistent to the photograph here, although they don't show the notch. I'm starting to think it's a boo-boo. I really think it should be on that side, but I could be wrong. Of course, the flywheel on there actually fits perfectly, but over here, the grub screw doesn't line up with that. Now, maybe that's an assembly problem, I'm not too sure. Now, we can give this a little test if you like to show you. I'll use some compressed air, and I won't give it too much. And that's pretty cool, isn't it? That sounds beautiful. Okay, it's a little bit hard for me to hold it and change it into reverse, but we'll give it a crack. Yeah, reverse is working. Nice. Now, while you guys have been waiting, I've actually turned the motor over and I've put on the bottom cover with the 4 cap head screws supplied. I still have to put the tiny little nameplate on here. Now, I haven't done that yet. These screws are miniature and they are very tiny, but the good thing is the kit comes with quite a few tools, and I didn't see this earlier, but it came with a pair of tweezers. When I first saw these, I thought it was some sort of pick, but then I dug them out of the bag, and they're much more easier now, and that's one of those little tiny screws that I'm talking about right here. And you can see how tiny they are. Very easy to drop, so I'm a little bit worried about that. Now, one thing I did notice was that I'd had the wrong screws in the bearing caps here, and they actually said, they list them like number 48. You've got to go to the back page and it'll actually tell you what they are. 2mm, 2.5, M2, M2.5, M1.5, and they'll give you an overall length. So I changed those screws out. Now, then I moved on over here to the boiler. So the boiler has this little ring fitted here, and there's 4 tiny little screws that go right up under here, and they're Phillips head screws, and they're quite hard to get a handle on. All right? But anyway, we got that ring in finally, and that took a little bit of a while. Then they tell you to push the boiler up through the bottom. So here's the boiler. Now, I found the trouble with the boiler was maintaining it in there. Once you get in there, it kept falling out. So I grabbed the packing foam and just shoved that behind the boiler, and that kept some front pressure on here to get it in. Over the page, there's a little green O-ring that goes in the front of the boiler here. And what they want you to do is to use your tweezers. It's a round O-ring and it fits into a rectangular groove. So you've got to gently just push that O-ring in and work around there. Then there comes a little sight glass. Now, it is glass, so you need to take special care with it. And gently, if you try and put it in, it wants to cock itself over. When I put it in straight into the corner, then laid it down like so, and it went in fine. There's then a paper gasket, I should say, and a retaining plate here, or a cover to hold it on. And you can see here, now you have to be careful with tensioning these. Do it in I attacked it like a cylinder head. I just put them all in loosely, then just gently worked my way across diagonally till they were all touching, and then I just gently went around and tightened them up. The pressure gauge has 2 washers. These little tiny washers here, which are labelled 71, and they are interface screw washer, they call them, M5. Now, the actual screw itself, so this is part number 70, there's the washer. You have to be very careful. This washer, there's a step on the bolt. This washer must fit over the step. If you don't, what happened to me, I noticed it at the last minute. As I wear glasses, I don't see that well. I noticed the washer had cocked over and didn't sit up on that retaining shelf, and I damaged or bruised it. So I used the other washer and I assembled it. And the one that I slightly bruised, I put it on the plug over this side here, number 72. So here it is here. Now, hopefully that camera is focusing for you. That's that one there. There's our pressure glass. What they want you to do next is to fit the plugs. Okay, so the first one I put in was the pressure relief valve, and they tell you that take care. So I did it in reverse. They wanted you to assemble the valve first. I did the pressure relief valve. You have to fit a small O-ring to it, and I just gently screwed that into the top of the boiler here. I didn't over tighten. It's just sitting there. I made sure the pressure relief valve is actually, I could feel it. So there's a spring on it, and just checked it. The valve cock, then you have to screw a retaining nut on, and they tell you to be careful. They're saying leave about 2 millimeters clearance from the bottom here. Now, to give you a rough idea, this spanner is 1.5. So what I did here, I just used that spanner as a gauge, you can see here, and screwed the nut up to it. Then fitted the O-ring and put it in, and just gently tightened that up here. Now I'm not swinging off it. I'm not going to put 100 foot-pound of torque onto it. This is our pipe, so I just nipped that up for now. Okay. Once that was assembled, we'd move on to the little side nameplate. Okay, and this is where we're up to now. So I'm currently up to page 22 and 23, and that's assembling the boiler parts, what's left. So putting the tube in, which I've done. That tube just pushes in, and that pipe floats in the middle of the tube. Okay, it's got 2 slots notched out of it. I have to say that the kit is very well made. I am impressed with it, and the ease of assembly too. Just a little bit of reading up, a couple of mistakes along the way, but it's not that hard. So I'm going to continue on now with our firebox, this thing here. I need to put a little handle on it, and then I'm going to start attaching everything to the base plate, and then we can fire it up and check it. But look, I'll bring you back when I've got everything done, and then we'll fire it together. So the assembly process is now finished, and there was a few little mistakes that I made along the way. Now, one of the first mistakes I made, so I'll address it now in the video, was I missed this step here at 13.2. There was actually 2 screws that were supposed to put in there to hold that boiler in place, and you would have seen I had a bit of foam in there. So those 2 screws are those 2 here. Now, the next mistake I did, you might see it may appear on camera. When I tightened this up last night, the glass was perfect. I came home from work today to finish the assembly, and I've got a slight crack in the glass. So I most probably over tightened those screws, and I've got a very small crack. So hopefully that won't leak when we pressurise the boiler. If it does, I'll have to contact the company to get another sight glass. Now, another mistake that I made was this flap here. So the firebox flap, that should have been put on much earlier. The 2 hinges, and they were a real pain in the backside to get because I missed it and I bolted everything down first. So those hinged flap there should have went on here on page 21 at step 14.4. And I should have put those on before I put the boiler down onto the base. To get around that, I had to get a pair of tweezers under there to hold the nuts and tighten them. But I got it done, but anyway, it is what it is. Last time when I signed off from the video, I still had to put this tiny little plate on. Now, those screws are very small. As I was saying earlier, it was I really enjoyed the build. It was really good fun. However, as you get older, your eyesight starts to wane, and I really had trouble holding, with these big crankshaft fingers of mine, trying to hold these tiny screws to get them in. Now, when we were putting the hinges on here, I asked my wife to give me a hand, and we dropped one of the nuts and it went off on the ground. She got down on her hands and knees and found it, so we're lucky. And I got up, and as I moved, I stood on something, and you wouldn't believe it, I found the little grub screw that I lost yesterday. You would have remembered me telling you how I lost that grub screw and couldn't find it. It was right underneath my table, and wearing a pair of flip-flops, I found it. Mounting on the base was quite simple. Up here at 15.1 you had to mount the rubber feet and these little dome head nuts, and then just assemble everything on and tighten it all together. So what we're going to do now, we're going to fill the boiler up with some distilled water, and I have given it a bit of lubrication. I have tested the boiler. I put a tiny amount of pressure in here with my air gun, and we actually had it running. If we just light, gentle squeeze. It doesn't take much air to make it work, and we can throw, you can see that the engine is actually running at the moment. We can stop it and throw it in reverse. We'll actually fill up the boiler with some distilled water, fill up the burner with some alcohol. Now I just use isopropyl alcohol and put in about 25-50 mils, something like that. It didn't take long to come up to steam. The great thing about this little steam engine, it's a vertical, and it's actually got forward and reverse lever as well. It's double acting, so it's not a wobbler. It's got pressure coming from the top and then of course from the bottom to push it back up. Occasionally you might have to give it a flick start to get it going, but you can also, in the assembly, in the instruction manual says, if you give the forward and reverse lever a flick, that usually gets the timing right and that kick starts as well. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for following along. And once again, thank you to Roberta for sending me this model all the way from the, I believe it's from China. It's a Stirling engine kit. It's actually called a rocking whale, of all things. And it's got a nice little plaque on the side here. Rocking whale, and also around here as well. Little nameplate. So, hey, look, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. As I said earlier, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Recently, I had some time off YouTube. I had some medical issues, and this would have been an awesome little kit to have when I was, not working and staying at home and that sort of stuff. And what a shame I didn't get it sooner. Good on you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.